Good afternoon, Club 17. Good to be here today. We've got a great program, really excited about this. It's Police Recognition Day, one of our favorite programs of the Rotary year. And to kick things off today, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now Steve Dreyfel is going to lead us in the invocation and four-way test.
Can everyone hear me? I guess so. Thank you. Will you bow your heads, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet today with our fellow Rotarians, whether in person or virtually, to enjoy good food, good fellowship, and to honor members of our police department. These are men and women who have chosen a career of service, who keep us safe that we can enjoy each and every day, so we can walk down our streets, drive on our roads, attend our family and community functions with openness and freedom and without fear. Men and women who are willing to go into harm's way and risk their own lives if needed. We thank you for this. We ask that you keep them safe and free from harm as they work to protect us and our community. Heavenly Father, we are blessed to have one of the finest police departments in the country, and we give thanks for Chief Isaac and each and every member of the Cincinnati Police Department, for they put service above self. Amen. And now let's celebrate today by reciting the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
And we have a few guests with us today that I'd like to welcome. Visiting with us are Don Catchman. He's a guest of Jim Neidhart. Could you stand up, Don? Welcome. And we have Nathan Musgrove from a company, Excelsior. He's a guest of Rick Flynn. Nathan, welcome. And we also have Gary Walton, who is the founder and professor emeritus of the Cincinnati Type and Print Museum. He's a guest of Dan Long. Welcome, Gary. And now I'm pleased to invite to the podium Rick Flynn, the president and CEO of Flynn & Company, and a past president of our Rotary Club. Flynn & Company is our meeting sponsor today.
Thank you, President Brett. Today is one of my favorite days when we honor the police. They do such an amazing job and for our community, and I'm sure this last year was incredibly hard. So we're so grateful that you're here. Flynn & Company is a local CPA firm. Although we're one of the fastest growing firms in the region, we have offices in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, and we'll soon be in Columbus. And so we specialize in audit, tax, outsourced accounting services, and a variety of consulting, including valuations and mergers and acquisitions. We've helped many businesses, especially through the COVID virus, in getting PPP loans, round 2 of PPP, helping them understand EIDL loans, Save Your Stages loans, and a variety of other types. It's been very complex, to be quite honest, but this particular program, the PPP loan program, has been enormously successful. And we're very proud that we did at least a half dozen webinars on the topic, and we've helped numerous businesses obtain the dollars they need to get through this very difficult time. We help a variety of businesses through succession planning, and another number of other areas in terms of strategic planning for nonprofit organizations. So thanks very much, and enjoy.
And Rick, thanks for your sponsorship of this meeting. And we have a few announcements today. First of all, just a reminder, when you're finished eating lunch, if you would please put your mask back on. Thank you. And one birthday to celebrate this week, Jim Yunker on April 10th. Let's wish Jim a happy birthday. I'm really proud of the service that we've done to the community this Rotary year. It's been an unusual year, but we've been able to keep up very active community service schedule. On April 2nd, we had a number of club members helping at St. Joe's School in the West End as they get ready to start an agriculture program there. They were building raised garden beds and filling them up with dirt, and that was step one of a two-step project. Step two at St. Joe's will be April 17th. We already have a lot of Rotarians signed up for that. I just want to say, commend everybody who's been involved. It's been fantastic, and thanks to Bill Stilley for organizing it. And I know you've been following our Save Local, Believe to Achieve gift card program to help benefit local merchants and restaurant owners. Boy, do they need it at this time. And due to generosity of our club members, almost $5,000 were purchased in gift cards from various businesses. That will be matched with the same amount from our club, so that will basically benefit $10,000 to local businesses in terms of gift card purchases, and all those gift cards, of course, go to the Believe to Achieve auction, silent auction, so it jump-starts our foundation's auction as well. So thanks to everyone. I got a question from the floor. That's good. The program is actually officially over at this point, but I will say this. If people want to keep buying local gift cards from local merchants, it's a wonderful thing. Keep doing it and keep donating them to the silent auction. And actually we're going to take a break from some of the announcements. We're going to do something different. How many people were here last week for Split the Pot? Okay, a few. So we've got a new system going right now. People who wanted to be part of it contributed for the month of April, and all those names went in a hat, and I'm looking for the hat right now. Oh, there we go. So we're going to draw one name out, and we'll take it from there. And Chief, I'm going to ask if you'd be willing to do that. Well, this is easy. Steve Dreyfel. It's an inside job. Steve, you get to pick a number between 1 and 42. You pick a number between 1 and 42. I'll turn over the corresponding card, and we'll see if it's the Queen of Hearts. Queen of Diamonds. Pretty darn close. So Steve won the daily pot, and we'll keep the accumulating pot going. I think it's now up to over $700 or thereabouts. How much is the daily pot? Who calculated that? Oh, so $15. Okay. Big spender. Last chance for those who want to be part of the wine tasting event on Tuesday, April 13th. That evening, that's a virtual event and an in-person event at Emma's Wine Shop down on Riverside Avenue. I think there might be some spots left, probably not many. If you're interested, contact the Rotary office by tomorrow. And one or two other announcements. Rotary Euchre starts April 27th. Bob and Joyce McElroy will be hosting. They are very glad to have guests at this point. The hosts choose the guidelines, and it's for anyone fully vaccinated at this point can participate. If you're interested, contact Bob directly. Again, that's April 27th. Should be a fun event. Is that good? That sounds like a lot. Do you have room for another table if you got two more? Okay, great, Bob. And thanks for hosting that. That's wonderful. And Rotary After Hours, if I've got this right, in this unusual year, this is our first Rotary After Hours event of this Rotary year. And it will be April 30th at Taft's Brewporium on Spring Grove Avenue from 5 to 7 o'clock in the evening. Should be a lot of fun. If you're interested in attending that, you do need to make a reservation through the Rotary office, a reservation by April 19th. Again, that event is on April 30th. And just members in the news, some sad news, and some of you may have heard this, but our President-elect Melinda Kelly, her brother died suddenly over the holiday weekend. And obviously a real shock to Melinda and her mother and the family, her siblings. I talked with Melinda yesterday. She'll be spending more of this week down in South Carolina with her family. Very, very sad to hear that. She very much wished she could have been here for today's event and wanted me to say hello to everyone on her behalf. So keep Melinda and her family in your thoughts and prayers. And also keep our fellow Rotarian Ron Ott in your thoughts and prayers as he is having a number of medical tests done this week. So Rotary next week, next Thursday, our speaker is Cliff Mentrop, the CEO of Kyocera Senko. Please join us next Thursday for that. And just a reminder about the club board meeting, which will be today, immediately after this meeting. It'll be in the Rookwood room on the 4th floor. So now it's time to turn to today's program. And I'd like to welcome to the podium Michael Villardo. Michael is one of the co-chairs of our recognition committee, and he will lead us through this wonderful event.
Thank you, President Brett. Steve, you wanted to split the pot. That must have been a heck of a prayer. It is certainly a wonderful day for us as we recognize and show our appreciation for the Cincinnati Police Department. I told the chief that I was going to mention that 20 years ago yesterday, this city went through an upheaval. But out of that upheaval, our Cincinnati Police Department became an exemplary model of policing for the country. I don't know if you're aware of that, but other departments come to them. And over this last year, as we've gone through an interesting year in so many ways, I have several times watched the news and been very appreciative of our police department and how it was involved in some very difficult situations. So could we just begin with a round of applause, just showing appreciation of who they are. It's my privilege to introduce the chief to you. This is a brief bio. He's homegrown, that's one thing to know, so it's good to know. Colonel Eliot K. Isaac was appointed police chief of the Cincinnati Police Department on December 10th, 2015, as Cincinnati's 15th police chief. Hired in 1988, Chief Isaac is a 33-year veteran of the Cincinnati Police Department. Chief Isaac's background and experience brings a wealth of knowledge to bolster CPD's law enforcement presence and community engagement efforts with an emphasis on fair and equitable policing. His experience spans virtually every aspect of policing, including administration, patrol command, internal investigations, problem solving, and community engagement. Chief Isaac was promoted to be Executive Assistant Police Chief in 2015. And prior to becoming that Assistant Police Chief, Chief Isaac served as the Criminal Investigation Commander where his responsibilities included oversight of all types of investigations, such as homicides, personal crimes, and financial crimes. From 2007 to 2012, he served as the District 4 commander, where he spearheaded several initiatives which significantly reduced shootings and homicides in one of Cincinnati's busiest and most violent districts. He also served as the Internal Investigations Section Commander and Department Night Chief. Chief Isaac is a graduate of the Senior Management Institute of Police, which focuses on critical issues in policing and provides intensive training in the latest management concepts and challenging issues facing law enforcement executives today. He's also a graduate of the FBI National Academy and a 6-year veteran of the U.S. Army National Guard. Chief Isaac holds a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership and a master's degree in human resources development from Xavier University. Chief Isaac is very involved with the Hope Worldwide organization, which is committed to changing the lives of individuals through community-based services to those in need. Please join me in welcoming and thanking Chief Isaac.
Thank you. I always ask them to share the short biography, but we got the long one today. Let me begin by wishing that everyone and praying that everyone is staying safe and healthy as we hopefully move to the end of this pandemic that has been such a difficult time for us all. We are extremely grateful that you all have come here today to recognize our officers. This means so much to us. I can't explain it to you. When many organizations have had to cancel this event or these type of events, you all have decided to do it, and we are extremely grateful. I tell you, our men and women in blue truly deserve this recognition. It's been a tough year, and this means so much. So I thank you so much for that. If you allow me, we will go through the awards, and then I'll come back, maybe say a few words and answer any questions that you might have. That's okay, Michael. All right. First up, receiving the award for administrative excellence, Sergeant Timothy Fritz. Sergeant Fritz is the administrative supervisor assigned to my executive officer, Lieutenant Colonel Terry Thiegy. Sergeant Fritz is a team leader, and his work ethic is unparalleled. His work has been critical in the implementation of our new Chronos timekeeping system, the District 5 relocation project, our new Gun Crime Intelligence Center project that is underway, a very integral part in our 2020 civil unrest planning, our COVID-19 response and implementation efforts, as well as all the department responses to the major flooding incidents that we've had in 2018 and 2020. Please join me in congratulating Sergeant Tim Fritz.
I'd just like to thank the Rotary Club for taking the time out of their busy schedule to have this event today. I'd also like to congratulate all the other recipients that are being recognized here today. But I'd also like to make it one point known is that this is a combined effort of all 1,100 members of the police department, and it's a shame that only a few of us get recognized for the hard work. I'd also like to thank my wife, Mary Beth. I've done this for 32 years, and she's been by my side the whole time, so thank you.
All right. Thanks. Congratulations, Tim. Next up is the award for superior achievement. and this goes to two of our officers, Detective Joe Coombs and Detective Bryan Delk. They are recognized for their investigation into a shooting where 46 rounds were fired into a home in Price Hill. A 12-year-old girl was critically injured, and the bullets narrowly missed several other residents of the home. Detective Coombs and Delk conducted an extensive investigation, retrieving private and police videos, and were able to identify the suspect vehicle. They then worked with the Ohio Department of Motor Vehicles and identified a large list of vehicles in the greater Cincinnati area fitting that description. Through their detailed investigation and through a list of 100 vehicles, 3 suspects were identified and prosecuted for this heinous crime. Please join me in congratulating Detective Joe Coombs and Detective Bryan Delk. Who's going to speak for me?
Thank you. I'd like to say thank you to the Rotary Club for this recognition. Also, I'd like to thank the chief and our immediate supervisors, Lieutenant McCurley, Sergeant Beavers. They allow us to do our job day in and day out. They never ask why it's taken so long. Getting into the details of our investigations, they allow us to do our job. I'd also like to thank my wife. I've been doing this 23 years, and we're called in at all hours, weekends, holidays, and she puts up with me waking up and opening up the safe and getting all my equipment out to go in, and wakes her up every night. So, thank you.
Same as Detective Coombs, we're a family. We all work together, solve the issues that we need to solve. Also, my wife, long hours, all hours of the night we get called in. No questions, no concerns from her. She knows we have to look out for each other. Appreciate you guys having us here.
See how smart they are? They all remember to thank their wives. Next up, for career enhancement, Captain Matthew Hammer. Captain Hammer is currently assigned as the District 1 Commander. He completed his Doctor of Philosophy in Criminal Justice Studies at the University of Cincinnati in June of 2020, concentrating on crime prevention. He is a 21-year veteran of the Cincinnati Police Department, having previously served in patrol, violent crime squad, district investigations, crime analysis and problem solving, and as the department night inspector. Prior to his promotion to captain, Captain Hammer was tasked in making CPD's pivot unit an award-winning unit. In 2017, we won the International Herman Goldstein Award for Excellence in Problem-Oriented Policing for Pivot, which is place-based investigations of violent offender territories. Captain Hammer coordinated a community-based reduction grant application to apply for this strategy to be deployed in East Price Hill. We won that grant in 2018 for nearly $1 million. Congratulations to Captain Matthew Hammer.
Thank you, Chief, for that recognition. And of course, thank you also for your leadership, especially in this past year. I know it's meant so much to so many of us to have that kind of leadership. Thanks to the Rotary Club for this recognition. Of course, I want to reiterate that thank you. It is important, I think, for us, and it means a lot to us to be recognized in this way. Congratulations to the other awardees. I'm honored to work with you all day in and day out in the Cincinnati Police Department. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't say also thank you to my wife. Trying to enhance one's career absolutely means that there are sacrifices at home. And so without support and sacrifice at home, you simply can't do it. And so I'm thankful for that.
Awesome job. There's one more award winner in this category, Lieutenant Jennifer Mitsch. She wasn't able to be with us today, but I also want to make note that Captain Hammer and Lieutenant Mitsch are our two doctoral students. They both received their PhDs last year, and we are extremely proud of them. And our final award this afternoon is for Hero and Valor. This award goes to Officer Christopher Wermuth. On May 30th, 2020, while deployed as a line officer on our Civil Disturbance Response Squad, Officer Wermuth was struck in the helmet by a bullet during the confrontation with protesters. The round went through the officer's shield and struck his helmet. Officer Wermuth's dedication to duty allowed us to continue to move forward. I remember talking to him that night. He refused to come off the line after this happened. Please join me in congratulating and applauding Officer Christopher Wermuth for receiving the Hero and Valor Award. Thank you. Awesome, cool.
Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. I want to thank the Rotary Club. It's, like I said, greatly appreciated. Again, I want to thank my wife for being the backbone of our family, being supportive, keeping me humble. My dedication is to the city of Cincinnati, the residents, and my fellow officers. Thank you.
You want me to go back up top? Thank you all for offering this or these awards to our officers. They, as you can see, they truly are heroes. And again, they're all smart. They remember to thank their spouses. I just wanted to take this opportunity to just talk a little bit about the past year. 2020 was an unbelievably tough year for law enforcement, not only here in Cincinnati, but around the world, around this country. Policing in a pandemic, policing in worldwide civil unrest. As Michael mentioned at the beginning, this week we are marking the 20th anniversary of the riots that took place here in 2001. 20 years later, we saw it happen again. A little bit different, but a lot the same. In 2001, that civil unrest was focused very specifically about actions that took place here in Cincinnati. It was very directly focused on the Cincinnati Police Department. In 2020, it was a little bit different. It was about incidents that took place some 600 miles away, but yet we were feeling the same outrage and impact that everyone else was feeling. After 2001, we learned some valuable lessons. And I've spent the better part of last summer and fall, talking with different groups, different organizations, many citizens and activists about the activities of policing. There's still much work to be done in the profession, there's no question about it. But it is a very dynamic profession, a profession that is not static, something that we have to evolve. One of the things that I'm very proud to say is Cincinnati has always embraced that strategy. Much of the call for reform was well underway here. I hear people cry out for more transparency in the form of body-worn cameras, something that we undertook here. We launched my first year as chief. Even prouder to say that we're on our second generation of body-worn cameras that we launched last year, something that we've been on the front end of and have received high marks nationally for doing. I've heard calls about greater screening and how we hire officers. One of those things that we were able proudly to say, we do those things. Our officers are screened, they are tested, they are the best of the best. I heard calls about training. We found when we were examined that our officers had been exposed to all of those training tiers, implicit bias. We had begun a training series several years ago where we went through fair and impartial policing, procedural justice training, implicit bias, even developed our own training to help our officers understand the history of policing, entitled Empathy Through History. But yet we still see efforts and have undergone efforts for people to desire to defund us. You hear that call, and it's come in many fashions. At a time when we see nationally that officers need more training, they need more support with technology, this is not the time to cut funding. There's an effort underway right now that you often don't hear me speak about political issues. I'm a career police officer, but there's an issue on our upcoming ballot that I have to speak about. I'm a believer in affordable housing. I see our city is changing, and we need to make sure that there is housing available to all, but not at the expense of public safety. The challenge regarding this current issue, issue 3 that's coming up, it very specifically speaks to the funding coming out of the operational budget of the city. It is a clear effort to reduce funding to not only the police department, but the fire departments and other city departments as well. They don't have the opportunity to fund this by another measure if this charter amendment passes. We will be forced to cut our budget by 13%. Keep in mind, our budget, 90% of it goes to personnel. There's no way to meet this goal without personnel cuts. At a time where we're already 75 officers short, I would be required to lay off another 75, cancel the upcoming recruit class that we have scheduled to begin in July. It would make our city unsafe. I ask for your support. Those of you that live in the city, that have influence in the city, please support us in this effort to vote down issue 3. I do want to take this time again to express to you how much your support means. It can't be said enough. It can't be heard enough. This is a time where our officers on the front lines are faced with things that they've never seen before, that any of us have never seen. To know that we have the support of our citizens and our business community, it means a lot. It matters. It matters to them. These officers will remember this afternoon the rest of their lives. To be recognized for the work that you do is something that really strikes home. They don't ask for much, but a little recognition goes a long way. So I am deeply grateful to you for that. And at this time, I'll open it up to any questions that you might have. Yes, sir.
So with the environment that we've had this last year, with the pandemic and so forth, can you address, has there been much change in the amount of organized crime going on in the city? And also, could you speak to the increased continued use of fentanyl and heroin, et cetera?
Chief, if you could just repeat the question for the people on Zoom, or the gist of it.
You're asking, have we seen an increase in organized crime as well as an increase in heroin and fentanyl? The answer is actually it's been very consistent. We are still challenged with seeing overdoses because of heroin and fentanyl. One of the things that my officers are very cognizant of is that it is something very difficult to impact. The more arrests we make, the more we see it coming. Synthetic drugs is something very difficult to combat. When you can try to stop the import of drugs, we've had a lot of success over that. But when people can manufacture them at various locations throughout the city, it's an increasing challenge. I tell you, I'm never less than amazed at the partnerships that we've developed with the DEA and with our other federal partners in reducing some of this. We have seen overdoses level out some over the past year and a half, but they still are far too high. Something that we still need to continue to work on, and it needs to be a holistic approach. I think the pandemic has really hindered and created a greater challenge in some of the strategies that we've been able to employ, and that even spills over into some of our violent crime efforts. I'm happy to see that the first quarter of this year, we are starting to have some of that impact again. There was another question here. Yes, sir. He's an impressive person. I know him personally. It was odd. About a year and a half ago, he and I were sitting next to each other at a conference, and we never imagined that a year and a half later, we would be in the situation nationally that we are. I think he is doing the right things. I know him personally, as I mentioned. He has a very strong relationship with the community. When we saw many police chiefs throughout the country last year lose their job, we saw more police chiefs fired than I've ever seen in my entire career. At a city where this unrest stemmed from, I think his relationships with the community are stronger than ever. I watched his testimony in the trial earlier this week, a very difficult situation to testify against one of your own officers, but knowing the information you are stating is factual, and having the courage and the ability to do it in the fashion that he's done, I would tell him to stay the course. He's doing an outstanding job.
And just a quick thing, if there's anybody on Zoom with a question, just send it to my cell phone. Just text me a message. I'll repeat the question for the chief.
Yes, sir. So the question was, seeing a lot of traffic not yielding or being sensitive to pedestrians, and it is something that we have worked on for the past 2 years, actually. We've seen a significant increase in pedestrians. There are a lot of efforts underway. We have increased our traffic enforcement efforts, but that is not the solution. Because part of what we are finding is there are a lot of road conditions that make this condition unsafe. We are working with the Department of Transportation and Engineering to change some of that. Signage, speed bumps, up-to-date crosswalk signs, education, particularly when it comes to our young people. I've had the unfortunate opportunities to talk to families that have lost individuals to traffic deaths, and often finding that the pedestrian had done something that created that situation is a very difficult thing and a tragic thing to be a part of. But education, being attentive on the part of drivers and pedestrians. We live in a time now where everybody's face is in their cell phone, and I've seen it far too often. So there are a number of efforts underway. There are a number of neighborhoods that are really spearheading this, and hopefully we will see some progress there. Yes, sir.
So on Monday, there was an article in the newspaper that mentioned Cincinnati Police Department scores well on police reform recommendations, and I guess John Cranley was one of the co-authors of this, and 31 recommendations came out of it, and when they compared it to what we already do here in Cincinnati, 29 of them were already covered. So could you just address some of that? And first of all, congratulations on that. That speaks so well and highly of the work that the Cincinnati Police Department does. So,
thank you. I touched a little bit on those at the beginning, but there are a number of national recommendations out there that police departments are encouraged to adhere to be a department that embraces national best practices. On this one, as you mentioned, 29 out of the 32 we were already actively engaged in. Some of the others I think we need to continue to look at. I'm not sure that we always necessarily agree with that. We think we may already be there. For example, one of the things that we are encouraged to do is to, how do I explain it? One of the things that I know that we have gone back and forth, and I'm drawing a blank on the one I want to talk about. But there are many others that we're finding, and it'll come to me in a minute. But we have always been a leader in embracing change and reform. I know some of the things that we currently talk about is getting officers on the same page. We talk about, well, I know what it is now, I recall, thank you. Drawing your firearm. There's one of the things that, one of the national best practices is that if an officer draws their firearm, that officer should complete a report that I had to draw my firearm and report that I had to point it at a burglary suspect or a suspect fleeing from a crime. Well, we've always argued that we already accept that as a citizen complaint, and that now we have technology that every time our officer draws their firearm, it's captured on their body-worn cam. We believe that meets the criteria of reporting about our officers drawing their firearms. However, there are entities that say, no, you should write out a written report. My pushback is my officers write enough reports. They don't need to write another report to document what they've done. We've got it captured on camera. If there's an incident where a complaint is made, we have the information, we will investigate it. We don't see the need. So when we talk about those other three, those are the type of issues that are in question, that I believe we meet those criteria and some of the other issues that are out there. But when it comes to, I talked about hiring, I talked about technology. One of the other things that we talk about is officers, their certification as police officers having the ability to be revoked if they are involved in some type of misconduct. What the concern is around that is that you might have an officer who may have engaged in some misconduct and he jumps from department to department, that you have a licensing process where that certification can be revoked, similar to doctors, nurses, and other professions. I'm an advocate of that. I think that there are a small few of officers that would impact, and they do not need to be law enforcement officers. But I think that one of the things that you will see about Cincinnati, and we talked about after 2001, and it was difficult. It was difficult for us to make these changes, but I think now we have developed a culture where our agency embraces change. We embrace reform. We don't look at it anymore as necessarily a negative, as many departments are starting to evolve into that. We were doing this a decade ago, as many departments are now trying to implement and make some of these changes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
We've seen a lot in the news about the federal grant that was given to the city and areas that they could possibly, money can be spent. I don't know what the restrictions are, but do you have any feeling or opinion about how that can help or if that can be approved by the police department?
Absolutely, a very good question. And we have been in the process as recently as this week in requesting some additional funding. One of the biggest challenges that we are faced with is our attrition. As I mentioned, we are down 75 officers. We have a recruit class that is scheduled to begin of 50 officers in July. They won't graduate until late February or March of 22. We've got nearly a year where we have to go without any help on the horizon. One of the things that I've requested since we've gotten that is the ability to do a lateral class where we can hire officers that are already certified, have a compressed academy and a compressed training time, be able to get us some officers a little quicker before the end of the year, maybe late fall, that will help with this challenge that we're facing. I've received approval to do that, so that's one of the things that out of that funding that will help. There's some other things that are going to be coming to light right now. There are a lot of departments making their wish lists and asking that council approve some funding to be able to do some of the things that have been needed. The city has been cut to the bare bones over the last several years. There have been a number of positions that haven't been filled. our civilian ranks are suffering greatly. We need that support staff to help us. So I'm requesting for some help there as well. But thank you, very good question.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you all again. It is always a pleasure to come to this group. So again, thank you so much for having us.
So, Chief, first of all, our thanks to you and our thanks to the whole department, but we especially thank the awardees today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for letting us not just commend, but celebrate the work you're doing to help our community, and we also know how important families are, and we appreciate the spouses and the children and others who know what it's like to be part of the larger police family. So thank you very much again for being here. We're proud to honor you, and Chief, we're proud to honor you for your leadership and your service as well. And let's just give him one more round of applause. And we have a check from our Rotary Club to the Cincinnati Police Department to help with the police training fund. It's a check for $1,000. We're glad to show our support in any way we can for the great work that you're doing. And I just want to thank everybody who joined today on Zoom or here in person in the Hilton. It's great to be back in the Hall of Mirrors. Just a reminder, the club board meeting is right after this meeting in the Rookwood Room on the 4th floor. Next Thursday at lunch, our speaker is Cliff Wenthrop. He is the CEO, he's the CEO of Kyocera Senko. Glad that Cliff can join us. And I just want to wish everybody, in the meantime, a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Meeting adjourned.